Everyone, welcome to the January 2023 community call for Hummingbot Foundation. It's been hope everyone had a great holiday break. I know us and our staff did as well. And so today we wanted to present a few things related to the monthly call. So here's the agenda for this month. First, we are going to go over the release highlights for the last release, which we just came out with last month. That was version 1.11. And then I'll briefly discuss the two roadmap blog posts that we publish, the governance roadmap and the technical roadmap. Finally, I'll give you an update on how our new Botcamp initiative is going. We just finished the demo day for the second cohort yesterday. So a bunch of students presented the trading scripts they built, and it was pretty cool. And then finally, I'm going to go over how our new polls work. We just created some new extensions. Oh, I'm very soft. Can I increase the volume? Yes, I can. 1 second. Let me switch over to my headphones. Okay, 1 second. Properties. 1 second. Oh, okay. Got it. Okay, I see why. I'm actually using my headphones now, which I'm not. Okay. All right. So let's try this. Okay. All right. I think this should be a lot better now that I do this. Okay. All right. Yeah, thanks for saying the comment. So if you guys have any questions about what we're discussing, please put them in the live chat on YouTube, or you can put them on Discord in the community calls channel, which we also monitor as well. Okay, so let's get started, and let's go over first the release highlights for version 1.11. So we released this in December, and so this release has some improvements to the hedge strategy, which is a community strategy maintained by one of the long-term developers in the community, Least Chaos. So some of the changes there there's actually a bunch of changes to the strategy that makes it much easier to use for people in the community. For instance, so the developer changed the code from Python to Python. So now the code itself for the strategy should be easier to improve and customize for developers. It also allows people to hedge on multiple exchanges. So now instead of just saying, you can only hedge on one exchange, you can basically select multiple exchanges to hedge on. And you can also hedge by their amount or value. And so finally, you can also select both perpetual and spot exchanges. So I think that this community strategy is going to be a lot more valuable. And we also encourage other people in the community to add and maintain their own strategy in the code base. I'll talk more about that later on when we discuss strategy polls. In addition, CoinAlpha made some big improvements to the Huobi in the Ascendix connectors. So those are now the latest standards, and we thank CoinAlpha for all the changes that they've made to their connectors. It's actually been a really good partnership with CoinAlpha, because they've been serving companies and projects who need market making services using Hummingbot, and so anytime they kind of improve the code they're using, they'll contribute those improvements back into the open source code base. Also, our engineering team has improved the gateway user experience. So gateways are a DEX connector module, and initially our DEX connectors would approve any unapproved tokens automatically for users. And so we did that because obviously, anytime you trade on DEXs, you kind of have to approve the token beforehand, and it just seemed like something we should be taking care of for our users. Unfortunately, by making that automatic, we found that it doesn't work all the time because we're trying to automate a blockchain transaction, and sometimes, especially on non-Ethereum chains, there might be some extra parameters that the approve function needs, and if it fails, then the user's kind of stuck. So we've changed that so that I'm sorry, actually, that's actually a change that's coming out in the next release. I apologize. In this current release, the current version of Gateway, it just has, we improved how the installation works because for developers, in the new version, now the flow is much simpler. So if you try to set up Gateway in the new version, it should be a lot easier because it automatically kind of applies some cert paths and you don't have to manually do it. And finally, we are going to discuss some changes to the governance and maintenance process. I'll discuss that when I talk about the polls at the second half of this update. So overall, I think this was a pretty big release because we improved some major connectors that people used. I think Gateway, the UX improvements should continue in the 1.12 release, and I think the hedge strategy this is just a great example of I think a community strategy, and we'd love to see more people from the community maintain their own strategies. Okay, so now if you have any more questions, please leave them now on about this release. Please leave them now on the live chat or on Discord. If not, I'll move on to the next topic, which is around some of the blog posts we published in the last 2 weeks on the 2023 roadmaps that we have. So someone asked, is there a risk in auto approving? I would say there isn't a lot of risk, mainly because take that back. There's always risk anytime that you're kind of like automatically doing anything on the blockchain. But the reason the approval is kind of like it's like a fact of life is because basically anytime you want to trade on any DEX or transfer any token to any third party, you have to prove that third party beforehand. And so I think for most NFT marketplaces, most DEXs kind of automate that for you. And so that's kind of what we were trying to do as well. But we kind of found out that because it was on the front end, like on a website, you can more easily prompt the user or show them when something's not happening, get them to respond. When it's a bot and you're just trying to automate something that's running for a long time, it's almost like I think our user base is more technical and we don't need to hold our hand. So in the new flow, instead of automatically approving, it'll say, you need to approve before you can run this bot. And we're also going to add a command to Gateway that allows you to approve a token. So overall, we look at it as like, it shouldn't be that much more difficult, but it should put more control in the hands of the user running Hummingbot, so they're not dependent on something automatically happening. Any update for changes to the connectors post FTX? Yes, I'm actually going to discuss this a lot in the second half of this discussion because we are going to make a lot of changes to the way that we approach exchange connectors, and I'll explain that next. Okay. For outside devs working on writing connectors, so there isn't that much change. There is a change to the process, Matthew. Basically, I would say the change to the process is more around how to get the connectors into the code base, the official open source code base, and how to maintain them. We actually are going to be adding more documentation on how users can add connectors and improving that aspect of the process a lot. So I'll move on to that, and I should be clear how we're approaching connectors after we discuss the new blog posts and also the polls that we just created. So let's move on. So overall, this blog is something that we launched last month, and we plan on using it very extensively going forward. So the main sections, the two main things that we publish a lot on are really around engineering and governance. So from a governance standpoint, we published this post recently, which discusses our roadmap for 2023. And I think we have like four main goals. So I'm going to just go over them and just really kind of make sure that you guys understand the rationale for how we approach the roadmap next year. So the first goal for us is to make sure that we're cash flow positive as an organization without relying on the governance token. Our view has always been that the governance token, it's the supply should be fixed at Genesis because it's used for voting, and we shouldn't need to depend on the governance token to sustain the foundation. Because if we did, then that'll just drive the token's value down to zero. So what we've always tried to do is have our own revenue sources outside of HBot, and the two has been exchange fee share, and now we just started our Botcamp initiative. So I'll give a bit of update on Botcamp later on, but overall, our goal is to grow Botcamp until that's our primary revenue stream, so that by the end of the year, the foundation should be cash flow positive, and we can just basically focus on making HBot just having utility as a governance token alone. So that I think is really more of a business kind of like changes, but overall, from the initial cohorts of Botcamp that we're seeing, we're very confident that we can turn that into a successful venture by end of the year. The second plank of our governance roadmap is to make voting a lot easier than it has been in the past. Last year, we've actually processed a lot of proposals, over 200. And that's because initially we envisioned every single pull request going through this governance system. And so, we've had a lot of votes during the past year. But on average, there are only 5 voters per proposal. And that's because there's a lot of code minutia involved in pull requests. A lot of people in the community simply don't have the background or the interest, frankly, to be reviewing different pull requests and trying to do it. So that's why in the next month, we're really going to focus on monthly polls that basically aggregate voting and make it simpler. So I've created the January polls after this, and I think the best way to explain them is to just show how they work and show me voting on them as a community member. So we'll discuss that after a while. So I see a couple questions from people in the community. I'll try to cover them now, but I won't spend too much time on them because we are going to have an AMA session at the end. So there's a couple questions on Botcamp, and there's one on Akash. I'll answer them at the end, just so we can cover the meat of the call first. So, but overall, the polls aspect is we think will allow the community to basically use HBot to tell us how we should be allocating our maintenance bandwidth, which connectors, which strategies we should be supporting, and that should allow us to actually focus more of our time on improving the actual code base itself. So one of the things we discovered last year that worked really well was the concept of bounties. Initially when we first started, it was probably too open-ended. We let anyone propose anything, but as last year kind of went on, we kind of realized that there's 2 types of bounties that seem to work. One are kind of like smaller fixed bounties that are for like fixing bugs or adding like something that's well defined, like upgrading an existing connector. And the other types are kind of large projects where we actually kind of like scope them, we make them visible to the community, and we work with someone from the community who's already kind of experienced and who wants to do that. So the examples of that are like the Ripple Dex connector, the orchestration module, and some other ones. So I think there's actually quite a few going on right now. We're gonna ship the first version of the orchestration module, pretty soon. But one thing is going forward, I think we are gonna. I would say that the one change there is I think we will start using a vesting contract for developer bounties that are larger like these, because we believe that we want to align the interests of the developers with that of the community. A lot of the code they're writing, it'll take people a long time to start using it. So for people to, kind of like, kind of not be able to sell the HBot right away, we feel like it doesn't quite match. So we'll try to add a vesting contract so that we can basically align developer incentives with that of the foundation. And then finally, obviously, a lot of people in Hummingbot are using it to provide liquidity. And we also want to make sure that people can use HBot or they can use Hummingbot to provide liquidity for the HBot token as well. So we're finally getting the legal opinions necessary to actually list the HBot token and be more public with it. So we expect to have the token listed in the next like 1 or 2 months, and we should after that start some HBot liquidity mining campaigns for the first quarter. So overall, there's some pretty big changes coming up, but overall the governance roadmap this year is really focused around just trying to make sure we're profitable and that we are that we are kind of like getting basically getting more liquidity and more use cases for the HBot token. So before I move on, I do want to just handle a couple of quick things. So some questions. Actually, I do some questions. I'll try to cover the next few parts first, and then we'll get into MA after this. So one of the reasons we're doing these governance changes is so we have room to actually improve Hummingbot from a code base standpoint, because until now we've kind of like taken more of a reactive approach to the code base in that people have been submitting exchange connectors strategies into us, and we try to basically fix every single bug that comes in and every single kind of like PR that comes in as well. But unfortunately, as the code base has gotten bigger, we realize we can't maintain everything like that. So the new voting process is designed to limit how much of our time every month we spend on maintenance, which allows us to actually improve the code base like in ways like this. So this is something that we plan to do this year, where we're going to make Hummingbot much more of a framework than a simple bot. Initially, when Hummingbot was designed, it was really just a tool for market making. But now, we think that the way we should be evolving Hummingbot is into a general software framework that you can use to build any type of algorithmic trading strategy. And so that's why most of our priorities this year are around, expanding the functionality of the top exchange connectors, because after we start the polling process, we will be separating exchanges into gold, silver, and bronze, and that means that we can really focus on the gold connectors and improve how many endpoints we support on them. We also plan to really optimize the code base by removing the exchanges and the strategies the connectors doesn't want us to support, and we'll be expanding the scripts framework in order to really make it more customizable, in order to make Hummingbot more customizable and to allow users to build their own strategies more easily. So scripts are really the focus of Botcamp. For Botcamp, we're teaching people how to build their own scripts. So in the demo day that just passed, there were 9 individual scripts that people demoed, and some of them were honestly pretty amazing. A lot of them were not just simple market making, but they were a lot of them were using some external APIs. They were doing non-market making activities, and so this is kind of what we want to enable further with scripts. So some of the changes we're going to make is we're going to allow scripts to work with Gateway and with DEX connectors. We're adding a directional framework. I think there's already an MVP for that out there, where people can plug in signals from outside or from the order book, generate those signals, and then use those signals to automate some type of directional trading strategy. And finally, we plan to make scripts more configurable, because right now scripts are a very simple way to create a single file strategy. but we realized people want to configure them with different parameters. So there are already some people who've already done this, and we'll try to formalize that in the second part of this year. And then finally, we will play a lot of emphasis this year on trying to support external modules like orchestration. So the Hummingbot is not just one monolithic code base, but something that supports and is kind of works with other modules that people in the community have built. So I think overall, we think it makes sense to mark a Hummingbot 2.0 milestone sometime in the future, possibly around the end of this year. And so to be honest, we're still not sure exactly what should be entailed with Hummingbot 2.0. But if you have any ideas, please let us know. But overall, the way I think about it is that I think Hummingbot 2.0 is really about the kind of the culmination of Hummingbot's evolution from a simple bot into a framework. So I think at the time when we can really allow people to build anything they want and have lots of examples of those as scripts in the code base, and lots of helper functions and so forth, I think that's when Hummingbot 2.0 would be a good idea. Okay, all right. So now that we're done with this part, let's go back to the agenda. And I think we're at this part right here. Let me just give you a quick update on Botcamp, because we're really excited about this initiative, and we think it's something that a lot of people in the community, even if you're experienced with Hummingbot, even if you know already how to build a connector or run run all the strategies, we think that Botcamp might be something that you're interested in. So just to recap exactly what we're talking about here. So Botcamp is the new is our developer bootcamp that we have here. So the way it works is that we have 20 to 30 people per cohort. Every cohort runs for 6 weeks, and we try to give hands-on mentorship to people throughout the 6-week process and help them build their own custom trading script. So we've done 2 cohorts already. We just finished a demo day for the second cohort, and people have built some pretty interesting scripts, and we'll be adding those examples and some clips from the presentation to YouTube and to this page in the next few weeks. And we're starting to kind of roll out the new cohorts as well. So the January cohort is pretty much already full. I believe we only have 1 or 2 seats remaining. And after that, we'll likely be increasing the prices for the cohort number 4, 5, and 6 going forward, in order to really to like grow the program and to teach people more about how to create their own custom trading strategies. So if you're interested, please sign up. And also we'll be announcing kind of like trying to make the demo day for Botcamp next cohort even more public, to try to encourage more people from the community to attend. Next, let's go over how polls work. So polls is something that we added. This is really our big governance change for this year, which is to make it easier for people to vote by aggregating voting into these polls. So these are the first 4. Basically, every month we'll have like a set of polls. Usually it's only for issues, but every quarter we'll also have polls for people to select centralized exchange connectors, decentralized exchange connectors, and strategies. So let me go over each one of these, and I also vote myself in each one of these, just so I can show you how they work and how basically how the voting process works as well. So this is the sex connectors poll, and in this poll, we'll select the top exchanges that Foundation should support. So the eligible choices are all exchanges which have a spot or perpetual connectors in the code base. So there'll be a gold exchange. The top one will be gold. The next 2 or 3, 4 will be silver. And then any exchange that receives at least 100,000 HBOT votes will be bronze. So the bronze exchanges are not officially maintained by us, but they can be maintained by someone from the community, like Coin Alpha, for example, or an individual, individual exchange themselves. This voting is quadratic, which means that when I vote, I'm basically allocating my HBOT tokens across these choices, and it's divided proportionally across all of them. So let me do my voting right now, just so I can show you how I do it. So this is just on a small account I have with a small amount of HBOT. But the idea here is that I think people should be able to use their tokens, even a small amount, to ensure that some exchange they love gets into the code base. So for instance, let's say let's say I really love Digifinex, for hypothetically, I can put 100% of my tokens in Digifinex. This would be 180,000 tokens, and automatically already Digifinex, I can already ensure by myself that Digifinex is maintained in the code base. However, of course, for me as a user, I want this. The way I think about this is I want the exchanges I would want to use, and the ones that I might use in my bots to be included in the code base. And so the ones I use a lot, I would say, are KuCoin. So I'll put maybe 20% of my tokens here. I do also use Binance. So I'll put maybe 20 here. I also think that let's see. What else? Yeah, and then maybe my other ones I would maybe just pick other exchanges I've used a little bit. Like I do think Binance US, I think might be important. Maybe a Sendex, and Gate like this, and then maybe Coinbase. So I would maybe do something like this, where like that, and so once you're satisfied with your choices, you can just hit vote, and it'll vote your current HBOT balance in your wallet. So let's see, do the vote, and let's see. One annoying thing with MetaMask is you got to pull this all the way down, read everything, and then hit sign. And now, now I've done the vote. There you go. All right. So the way this voting works is that I've done this vote now. Now, as you can see, there's some votes here, and at the end of the week, the top exchange will be gold. 2, 3, and 4 will be silver, and any exchange that receives at least 100K HBOT will be a bronze exchange. So that's the centralized connectors pool, and we have 3 other ones. One for DEXs, strategies, and issues. So let me show you the DEX one. The DEX one works very similar to the SEX one. Gold, silver, and bronze DEXs. The eligible choices are any gateway connector or any DEX connector in the main code base, like Loopring and DYDX. So here are the choices. So again, I think people should vote according to what they would want to use with their bots. So for me, I tend to use Uniswap almost exclusively. And I also think that let's see. I also think we should be. I also think because we're doing kind of like a with there's Coin Alpha has exchanges going out with Trader Joe and Pangolin with the D-Miner campaign, so I'll vote for those, and with PancakeSwap, because I think there's something going on there. I also think OpenOcean is a good member of the community. Also, maybe I'll give them some. I also think we should support them, and also with DYDX as well. So yeah, so I'll probably that, and I think Perpetual is also interesting. Maybe I'll give them 5. That. So yeah, this is my vote for the DEX poll. Okay. And so the third poll that we created this week is called the strategies poll. So in this one, this in this poll, we'll be picking 3 strategies. These strategies in the code base are the ones that are officially maintained. So right now, there's 14 strategies in the code base, and it's really hard for us to, kind of like fix all the bugs, improve each one, because it's like playing whack-a-mole. So what we think we should do instead, focus on 3, the 3 top ones, really improve them, and then let the community maintain others in the code base. So just like an exchanges poll, any strategy that does not receive at least 100,000 votes will be removed from the code base. And the top 3 will be the core strategies maintained by the foundation. So for me, I think that pure market making is the one that I think people use the most. I think AMM arbitrage should be in there as well, and I think other choices that I think might make sense would be, let's see, I think cross exchange definitely, possibly, and then maybe also possibly also Avanada, maybe Avanada. So I'm actually not sure between these 2, so I'll just put it like this, and then hopefully let the community decide which ones they like the most. All right, my vote is in. And then finally, one last poll. This is the priority issues poll. So this is actually a monthly poll, and the idea here is that there's 400 issues and 70 open pull requests right now on GitHub. We need some guidance in terms of which issues we should be trying to knock out, which PRs we should be actually reviewing and merging in. And so we have a nomination thread where people have nominated these issues and PRs for this month. And so we've added them here. So basically you can vote on which issues you think should be prioritized, and we'll try to focus on those first. So again, it's also quadratic voting here as well. So I think I'll just just mark the ones that I think we should be. I think let's see. Let's try doing these here. Definitely upgrade Binance perps. This test. Okay, that's 5 already. Maybe that's good. That's probably good enough. Actually, I think I'll probably do this one. Let's see. Okay, that's good. All right. All right, well, there you have it. So I hope that was helpful, just as a demonstration for how the polls work and how you can actually use your HBOT tokens to vote on them. What we're trying to do here is to really try to make sure that your votes have real impact. So after the votes finish next week, we will begin the process of highlighting the strategies and connectors which have been at the top of the vote, trying to make sure we give them more resources, and then taking action to remove the ones that people don't want from the code base. So hopefully, after the next few days, there will be a lot more kind of like interest in voting, and what we're trying to do is every single month we'll try to really make sure that people know about how this process works, so that we can get more people in there. So let's move on to the AMA. I'll please, if you have any more questions, please put them in the YouTube live chat or on Discord. So let's let's go, and I'll try to answer some of the questions that people have asked. So let's see. So I think someone asked on YouTube, are the amount of people interested in Botcamp Limited, can it generate a continual constant cash flow? We'll see. I think everything in life is an experiment, especially in business. I will say, however, that we're seeing a pretty good adoption rate from the first few Botcamps. So we had, we did very little marketing, and we filled up the first cohort pretty easily with 20 people, each paying about $1,000. The second cohort we were doing in January, or I guess that's officially cohort 3, we've already filled it up already. I think we have 19 seats right now, and we're increasing the price for the future. And I think the reason we think the audience is unlimited is because we can teach anyone to build any trading strategy what they want. So it's kind of like, it's not limited to market making or any type of like particular strategy. It's more like any idea you can think of, you can automate with Hummingbot. And so that's why we think that the universe of people who want to learn that are potentially in the millions. Let's see. Has anyone looked at deploying Hummingbot on a Akash, just a Docker image upload? I think it'd be interesting. I actually know Akash pretty well. I'm friends with the CEO Greg. I think for us, I think for us, our goal is really supporting the software. So our goal is to make sure that people can run a Docker image of Hummingbot in as many locations as possible. If there is kind of desire for us to support, like in different environments, let us know, and it's something we can explore. Especially if there's some type of like if users really want us to do it, I think we can do it. But I think for anything new, what we're looking for is like almost like a significant fraction of the user base that wants us to go in that direction, because there's almost an infinite number of directions that we could go. Let's see. Any update on creating a smart contract for payouts? So this is probably related to liquidity mining. This is, I would say, not really our purview anymore, because we're really just focused on maintaining the open source code base, while Coin Alpha is running the miner program and everything involved there. So so sorry. Unfortunately, I would say I think the best way to get that question answered would be to inquire on the miner support channel, Matthew. And I think the Coin Alpha folks can let you know if they're planning on improving the payout system in any way. And I think there's some discussion about directional trading. I do think directional trading, and this is probably, we're seeing that at least half the folks who are building scripts in Botcamp are building directional strategies instead of market making or arbitrage ones. And we also believe that there's lots of potential in expanding Hummingbot's capability to do directional trading strategies, and also in combining directional strategies with the market making strategies that Hummingbot already offers. So we're just really excited to see what people can build with Hummingbot in the future. Let's say, can we edit the arbitrage strategies and add in more exchanges and trading pairs? So XID, I think that's really the goal for scripts in Botcamp, because initially we had these fixed templates that people could edit, but they're just not very flexible. And what we found is, people want to do a lot more with trading bots. They want to add in all the stuff they want to add that we can't, just engineer for them. And that's why Hummingbot is turning to a framework. And so I would say, if you want to add in more stuff in the arbitrage strategy, look at the scripts feature and try to build your own arbitrage script that's looking at more exchanges, more pairs, and then don't. And I would treat the current arbitrage strategy as more of like a minimum viable strategy. That's like the most basic template you have, but you probably need to do a bit more with it if you actually want to make it profitable. Let's see. Are you planning on enterprise packages for Hummingbot cohorts? That's a great question. Keith Emerson. I think I would say right now we're not, because we kind of view Botcamp and what we do on the foundation side as we serve the individual users in the community. Whereas if you're a company, if you want like some pro version of Hummingbot, if you're looking for more of like a corporate use case, we actually think Coin Alpha is much better served at delivering on that. They're doing custom engineering now for different projects, hedge funds, and exchanges. And for us, I think, we're really trying to educate and serve the individuals who are using Hummingbot here at the foundation. Huang asks, along with HBot token being listed, will there be marketing campaigns for it? HBot is still a niche token. What are your tokens on making it more popular? That's a really good question. And I would say, to be completely honest, from a marketing perspective for the token, we're not going to be doing a lot of marketing for the token. And that has more to do with the fact that HBot is not a security. And if we actually did do a lot of marketing for the token, it would put it at risk of being considered a security under US law, which would actually be much worse for it than if we didn't do any marketing at all. Now, we recognize the need to publicize the token because people have to know how they can acquire it and how they can use it for governance. So I do think that we do need to make sure people know how they can use the token, where they can acquire it, and try to make that process easier. However, I think that kind of like marketing and promoting the token can be, well, unfortunately, because this is the world we live in, dangerous from a regulatory and a compliance perspective. So I think we just have to walk that line there. Okay, dumb question, but can a DEX aggregator be integrated? So instead of adding Sushi or Pancake or using aggregator works all of them? That's actually not a dumb question at all. In fact, I would say we've actually had a bunch of conversations with other aggregators about this. And I actually do absolutely think that an aggregator connector would be a good idea. And because I think what's happening is that on the DEX side, right now, I think the connectors are pretty basic. They just handle the swap functions. So any connector, any gateway connector that just handles swap functions can almost be replaced with a aggregator for that blockchain. So for example, it's kind of like instead of integrating Radium on Solana, just integrate Jupiter, or instead of integrating Sushi, and Dodo and other exchanges, just integrate 1inch. And I think that I do think it's a great idea, and I think that we should actually be adding aggregators, and I think DEX connectors should almost be like we should be saying like which ones should be added to the code base. Now, I do think for certain DEXs like Uniswap or DYDX, where they've added a lot more, where they've added kind of like like LP functions, it's an order book connector. Those are the ones I think require a lot more attention. But I think you're absolutely right, Bob. The generic DEX connectors can absolutely be replaced with aggregators. Okay, and then finally, I think we have one question from Soothsayer in the community call channel. He had this is actually a pretty long one, but I think he had a really good point here. So let me read the question, and I'll address the question afterwards. So he said, Soothsayer said something to think about. At times, some of the core contributors can be disconnected from the actual users and vice versa. As in, there might be a disjoint between the needs and goals of the developers versus the users. So I think, so he suggests there might be some thoughts on how to meet in the middle or how to prioritize developers' needs versus user needs. So for instance, like I think, basically, like for instance, things like adding database drivers to the Docker image. Like I think users wanted the REST proposals like vetoed it. I think this is I would say I think what you're asking here, Soothsayer, is kind of like how to kind of balance the needs and how to try to make sure that the basically all voices are heard properly. So I would say I think that what Soothsayer is referring to, I think, is an episode which kind of taught us a lot about like how to improve governance. So last year he submitted I think a PR to add some database drivers, and at the time we had a technical review DAO who's comprised of like historical members from Coin Alpha and other members from the community, and it was like that DAO was the one that kind of like was able to almost like had this like veto hammer that they could kind of like apply to any incoming pull request, and it wasn't really visible to the community how that decision in terms of whether something got vetoed or not or approved, how that decision was made. So it was really, I think that was actually one episode that got us to try to change the process. So I think now I would say, to answer your question more directly, Sue Sarah, I think this is where the priority issues poll is supposed to work. So the idea behind that one is that every month people can basically select 5 things that we should be trying to get done. It could be an issue that the community thinks should be merged in, or pull requests that should be, merge in, or issue that should be addressed, or pull requests we should merge in. And I think the idea is that if let's say your PR was one of the top 5 for that month, then that would be definitely something we would do. So the idea is that it's not like 1 or 2 people are arbitrarily making that decision. Instead, whatever the community thinks are the top 5 issues every month are the ones that we address. So I hope that helps answer the question. But to me, I think what you're pointing out is one of the I think the challenges we have to overcome, which is we are a code base that's used by many different stakeholders. We have individual users using it with no coding experience, and we also have hedge funds that are like highly professional, highly technical, using hedge funds. Using Hummingbot, at scale in a very professional way. And so I think the goal of the governance process is really to try to make sure that there's a process that allows anyone to get their voices heard, and all they have to do is go out and acquire some HBOT tokens to do that. Okay, well, so I think hopefully this has been a good. Oh, actually, sorry, one more question. Last question, and actually after this we're gonna end the call. Plus, I have to drop my daughter off at school, so I really need to end this call pretty soon. So last one is it possible to add layer 0 aggregators like Stargate? They have some interesting possibilities for transfer between chains. Absolutely, yes. I do think that. So the issue is that I think that I would say, yeah, like I think Keith, if you wanted to propose like a spec for that, I think it would actually be really interesting to discuss and get cross chain aggregators like Stargate in there. I'm not sure quite how they work, but I do think that the structure of Gateway, I think, is pretty compatible with getting those endpoints in there and getting them used. So overall, I think that the goal of Hummingbot is really just try to support every single exchange out there and try to have a framework that can do that. So hopefully we can, with the help of everyone in the community, really expand Hummingbot this year. So thank you very much, and we look forward. Oh, but sorry, before I end, I should announce we're actually going to change the call schedule so that now these calls will be every 2 weeks. We'll have essentially 2 calls every month. One will be a developer call in the middle of the month. So the next one will be in 2 weeks, where we'll have a lesson and go over and try to teach everyone something from the code base. And then in the next one, which is the next community call, which is the beginning of February, we're going to have the community devs who built the orchestration module present and demo what they built. So the goal for us is to try to have 2 calls every month. One's a dev call, focus on developers. We're going to try to get into the weeds and really teach technical content. And the second one is a community call where we're going to go over, kind of governance stuff like this, or ideally try to get someone from the community and to demo and showcase something that they've built already. So if you're interested in joining for future demos or have questions about this process, please let us know on the community calls channel on Discord. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.